Good morning. So pleased to be here. First thing I would like to do is have everybody stand up. You've been sitting for a long time. So stand up, stretch. If there's someone at your table that you don't know, say hello, twist, bend, move around. So while you're finishing your stretching and getting comfortable, I was thinking about my very first conference that I ever went to when I was a medical student. And I hate to say this, but it was over 30 years ago. And the very first conference that I ever went to was an AMWA conference. And I remember so much about it. They had a program where you could spend the night with a woman physician in her home, so you didn't have to pay for hotel, and I did that. And the networking and the energy that I got from that is still with me today. So it's really fun and gratifying for me to kind of come full circle and be here at AMWA again. For those of students and residents in the office, this may not mean anything to you, but for some of us, I remember at the AMWA conference that I was at, I met a woman physician, Helen Taussig, who was founded the field of pediatric cardiology. And she developed a concept for a process that was called the Blalock-Taussig shunt, used to treat children with tetralogy of Fallot. And so I met this woman. She was a little itty-bitty thing, but just remarkable. And she died shortly after that, and I still to this day feel so grateful for having met her and hearing her speak. So that's part of my AMWA story. So as Fatima mentioned, in 2009, I left a secure position and decided to go start a new medical school. And I'll tell you honestly, a lot of people said, "Are you nuts? Are you crazy? Why would you go and take a chance like that and start something that you don't know if it's going to work, you don't know if it's going to take off?" But I had in my mind, and I had in my mind for a long time, a vision that there should be a program for medical students that really focuses on their experience of being a medical student. We know the education, we know how to get the students the knowledge they need, but are we paying enough attention to the skills and the habits and their personal growth and their personal health while they are medical students? So I decided to go to this new medical school because the dean assured me that I could do whatever I wanted and I could set up a program, which I have done, and it's been very fulfilling to me. So my interest in wellness has been longstanding, but has continued to grow as I meet with more students and try to develop their good habits for wellness. This talk is not about doom and gloom. It's not about you need to exercise more and eat less. It's about seemingly very small things that we can do on a daily basis for our own wellness. For the students here, it's so important to start today. Don't wait until after residency or when I'm in practice, then I can concentrate. You need to start working on wellness now. And for the physicians here, you are all role models. And our students and our residents are looking at you and looking up to you. So it's really important that you model good and healthy behavior. So whenever people say, I have good news and bad news, what do you want first? I always say the bad news. I like to get that out of the way. So the bad news, we know what the bad news is. Medical students, and really residents almost more so than medical students, a lot of the latest research coming out is showing us that residents really are struggling. And, somebody mentioned earlier about suicide rates in physicians. And for women, in the general public, suicide rates among men are higher than women. But for physicians, it's actually equal. There's fewer suicide attempts with women physicians, but more completed suicides. So we know, I don't have to stand here and tell you that wellness is an issue. We do know that. So let's go to the good news. The good news is that there's a lot that you can do, and a lot that you can do on a daily basis. So one thing is to work smarter, not necessarily work more. And I don't know how many of you were here for the panel, but we heard women talking about trying to balance childcare and working. And what I have found in my career is that women who have a lot of things to do work really hard. When I was working part-time when my kids were small, I wasn't taking 2-hour lunches. I wasn't standing around chit-chatting or talking. I got there, I did what I needed to do because I knew I had to leave at 3 o'clock to get home and take care of my kids. But there's certain skills that you have to learn too. One is to delegate, and I don't know how you all feel about it. I had a very hard time with this earlier in my career. I didn't want to delegate something because I was afraid it wouldn't come out the way I wanted it to come out. So I ended up doing everything myself and getting overwhelmed. And so it's really a skill that you have to learn, and an important one. And if you have a mentor, you find a mentor, get help with that and find out how you can learn to delegate. You have to know when you're most productive. I happen to be a morning person. I will be up at 4:35 in the morning and be happy as a lark, which really annoys a lot of people who are not morning people. But I know that about myself. And so for me to get up, get into work where it's quiet, the phone's not ringing, there's not a lot of people around, I can get a lot of work done in 1 hour. Before the place opens up, I can really get a lot of work done. And toward the end of the day, I start winding down about 3:30, 4 in the afternoon. I can feel accomplished that I got something done. So I know that about myself, and you need to know for yourself when are you most productive. I know that I cannot work at home. I've tried sometimes. I say, I'm going to do some work from home. Can't do it. I find a million things that I can do at home other than my work. So you need to know what you can do. Making lists is very helpful. I don't know if any of you have done this, but I'm a list maker, and I make little boxes that I can check off as I do things. And sometimes I'll do something that wasn't on a list, and then I add it to the list, just so I can check it off. For me, that's very helpful because then I feel accomplished, and I have something that I can look at, and I can see everything that I've accomplished. Another thing is about stress. We need to constantly be monitoring ourselves and know when we're getting stressed out. And one thing that you can do is listen to yourself. Are you finding that you're whining a lot more than you're laughing? Are you noticing that you just don't seem like yourself? We cannot get rid of stress. Stress is a part of life. But there are certain things that I think we all worry about that we really don't need to worry about. One example I'll give you. When I was living in Chicago, I had a very long commute. So I would drive back and forth. And I would get in the car, and I would look at the clock, and I would say, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it home in time. There's traffic, there's more traffic than I thought. And I would keep looking at the clock and keep looking at the clock. And finally I realized one day, this is not making the traffic go away. This is not making me go any faster. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And I actually covered the clock in my car because it was really stressing me out. And I thought, I'm in the car, I'm going to get there as quickly as I can. That's the end of it. There's nothing that I can do to change this situation. And for me, that was really helpful to know, what can I control and what can I not control. I have here, stop kicking yourself in the butt. I talk with a lot of students right now. Our M2 students are getting ready to take boards, and a lot of times students will say, I wish I had studied more these first 2 years, because now I have all this stuff to learn. And I say, but you know what, there's nothing that you can do about that. That's done. You've got to move forward. So think about, what can I do starting today going forward? Not what did I screw up, what would I do differently? We can waste a lot of time and a lot of useful energy on what we didn't do right. And all it does is burn up our energy to put into those things that we need to work on. Values. I've heard a little bit about this morning. Some of the doctors up here were talking about their values. I was recently interviewed by somebody, and one of the questions they asked me was, what has been your biggest miscalculation in your career? I thought, well, that's a really interesting question, and I thought about it for a little while. And I thought about a time when I was really unhappy in my job. And I wasn't really sure why. I knew I didn't feel like myself. I knew that something was off, but I wasn't sure what it was. And what I realized after reflecting on it was that I was in a situation where there was a mismatch of values. So my values and the things that I really valued didn't match with the people that were surrounding me. And it was a tough lesson to learn, but a really worthwhile lesson. And it's one of the reasons that now with our students in their first year, we have a whole session on values, because I want them to start thinking about it now. There's a lot of different things that you might value: creativity, compensation, influencing others, teamwork, flexibility, diversity, security. There's a lot of things that you need to think about, and think about what is really, really important to you. What's really important to me is creativity. I could not thrive in a situation where I felt stifled. I need to feel like I can come up with new ideas, like I can implement new ideas, and that's valued. That's really important to me. So for me, for my success, it's not really about money. I like making money, but it doesn't really motivate me. It's not about really publications. It's not about fame. For me, what I set as my goals, well, I know when I'm successful, is at the end of the day, do I have one person that I came in contact with that maybe feels better understood? Was I able to lighten the load for somebody that day? I know for the students that I have a lot of contact with, sometimes it's just a matter of feeling like, was I a good listener today? Was I able to listen and make sure that somebody felt heard? That's how I measure my success. I think we can run into trouble when we try to measure our success by someone else's values. And I know I did that once early in my career. I met with a woman who I really looked up to. And we were chatting, and she was telling me that she was publishing 8 papers that year. She was up for tenure and managed to crank out 8 papers. And I remember, like it was yesterday, kind of slinking out of there, and I went home and I told my husband, I'm like, I am such a failure. And he kind of looked at me, he's like, what are you talking about? And as I put it into words, I realized how ridiculous it was. But I did almost let myself define my success by someone else's standards. And that's a really, really important lesson to learn, because we all have different things that define us. We all have different things that we measure our success by. So we have to remember to make that our own and not define ourselves by someone else's success or values. So gratitude. I'm actually just finished reading a book that's up there called Thanks, How Practicing Gratitude Can Make You Happier. In our medical school, our dean tries to, he'll take a concept, and for 1 year we talk about, one concept and what does it mean and how can we implement that into our culture. And so we talk a lot about gratitude. And so I started reading a little bit about it, and what I've learned is, and this is a quote from the book, when people regularly engage in systematic cultivation of gratitude, they experience a variety of measurable benefits, psychological, physical, and interpersonal. So these are benefits that we derive ourselves from experiencing gratitude. It kind of contradicts the view that some people have that we all have like a set point of happiness, that we're going to be at the same level of happiness no matter what we do. In this book, they talk about our happiness level being 50% is genetics. That makes sense if you think about it. You probably know some people who come from families of happy people, and they seem to be happy and well-adjusted, and the opposite is true. About 40% from intentional activity, and that's what we're talking about here, and then 10% circumstances. They've actually done some studies where they took groups of people, and they had one group once a week make a list and write down 5 things that they were grateful for. I think this just went out, yeah. They had another group that they had write down once a week, list hassles, things like parking, taxes. The microphone is out. I don't think it's me. So we had one group that was writing down, making a list of things that they were grateful for, things like generosity of friends, nature, support, and then one group writing down things that were just major hassles, and then they had a control group. And after 10 weeks, what they noticed, they rated things like mood and physical health, and what they noticed was that the people that were writing down things that they were grateful for were 25% happier. So just that act of thinking about what are the things that you're grateful for, they had fewer health issues and they were exercising more. After reading this book, I've been trying to make a conscious effort to be more grateful and to think about things that I'm grateful for. So one thing that I've been doing, my husband and I recently built a house, and we built a house on a lake, and it's just absolutely beautiful, the scene. So what I do, I get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I look out the window and I stand there for just a minute, and I see the sunrise coming up in my window. And I stand there for just a minute, and I, first of all, just feel very grateful for being there and being able to have this beautiful, beautiful scene outside my window. But I also think about the fact that it's a new day, that there's never been this day before, there will never be this day again, and regardless of what is happening and what's going on, there's an opportunity there in this new day to make things different. And that's been very helpful. It's a great way for me to start out the day. So I would encourage you to do the same. In this picture, you can see there's a jar. That's our gratitude jar. We have a jar that we keep at the front desk at the Center for Medical Student Services at the medical school. And we invite anyone, students, faculty, staff, anyone, to write down words of gratitude and just make that a conscious effort. We haven't done anything with all of the papers that are in the jar, but we feel that just the act of doing that alone is helpful. So boundaries. This is a tough one. This is one that I've struggled a little bit with. But there's a lot written about how we need to, especially as women, pay attention to boundaries. When I was living in Chicago, I had a very, very long commute. And although I didn't like the commute, it was really a great time to kind of decompress and to feel like, okay, I'm leaving that and I'm going home. I moved to Michigan, and the good news is I have, an 8-minute commute now. Bad news is I don't have as much time to kind of decompress. But we should all think of some sort of ritual or something that reminds us that we're leaving work. Now, we don't have the luxury as physicians of just forgetting that we have a job. Of course, we have responsibilities. But if you can develop some ritual, some way internally for you to feel like, I'm leaving that and I'm going somewhere else. Some people suggest separate cell phones. Personally, that would stress me out more. I have enough trouble with my one cell phone, but that is one thing. Checking emails at home. I think, we get into the habit of feeling like we have got to respond immediately to every email. And I would encourage you to try very hard to not do that, and maybe set times when you're at home. So if it's on a weekend, say, I'm going to check my email at 8 o'clock. I'm going to maybe check it at 2 o'clock. But we don't need to be constantly checking emails. Sometimes what I'll do too is I'll scan my emails, and if it's not something that's urgent, it'll wait till Monday. But we have to make sure that we put those boundaries in there. And as always, enlist support wherever you can. And I know a lot of women have been talking about that and the importance of having support in your environment. So relationships, one of my favorite topics to talk about. They did a study of residents who had been suicidal in the previous year. And they asked these residents, what were you stressed about? List all of the stresses. And the number one thing on there was relationships. And I think to not talk about relationships, that's why I have start the conversation, I think starting in medical school, we need to start talking about relationships. This is not just personal romantic relationships, but we live with relationships, especially as physicians. You are always going to be somewhere working with someone else on a team. And you really need to think about, how do you function in a relationship? I have a talk that I do for our M2 students on relationships, and we talk about a lot of things. We talk about relationship myths. One myth is both people have to want to change a relationship, and that's actually not true. Only one person has to change to make a change in a relationship. But we talk about a lot of different things, and I feel like the most important part about it is not that they leave with knowledge, but they leave knowing that we need to think about it, and that relationships can be a point of stress, and it's okay to talk about it. We need to connect with people and keep connected with people, and I don't mean Facebook connecting where you're just, oh, you be my friend. I mean really connecting with people. We have to nurture our relationships. Autopilot does not work with relationships, and I think most of you know that, but we need to make sure that our students and our residents know that too. Affirmations. We need to give ourselves positive affirmations. We should each start every morning. We look in the mirror, whether we're doing our hair, brushing our teeth, doing makeup, whatever, you look in the mirror, you should start with an affirmation. Something that says to yourself that you're positive and that you're going to have a positive day. Some examples of affirmations. When I breathe in, I inhale confidence and I exhale self-doubt. I am persistent in whatever I do. I welcome challenge and I will rise to the occasion. Nothing is impossible and I can make a difference. I face difficult situations with courage and conviction. And these are just a couple of examples, but what you notice is it's positive. It's not negative. You don't want to start with, gee, I probably won't screw up today. Not a positive affirmation. You need to break negative thought patterns. And when I said in the beginning that the physicians here are role models, this is one way to really role model for students and residents what it's like to be positive and to feel confident about yourself. I have here, this is something that I saw somewhere, happiness is a choice, choose happiness. We have to remember that we do have a choice. Every single morning when we wake up, we have a choice on how that day is going to go or how a conversation is going to go. We have a choice. Rekindle a passion. So I think not often enough we pay attention to those things that really make us happy. I saw somebody doing cross-stitch in the back, and I was really happy to see that. It's so easy to put things aside when life gets busy. And I remember at one point in my career, I had 3 children under the age of 5, and I decided when my youngest daughter was a year that I was going to go back and get a master's degree. I don't know what I was thinking, but it ended up really great. It took me about 5 years to get through it, but I did, and I'm really glad that I did that. But I remember the whole time I was thinking, I got to do something for myself when I'm done with this, because I just felt like my time wasn't my own. I was split. I was either studying or I was taking care of kids or I was working. I was doing something for everyone else. And I'm not sure why, but I always had this interest in playing bells, handbells. Don't know why, must have heard them in church one time and thought, that looks like a lot of fun. So I promised myself when I got through my master's degree, I was going to join a bell choir. The day after I finished, I called a church that was in the neighborhood, and it was the most bizarre thing, but they just, like 2 days before, had someone quit the bell choir, and they needed someone. So I learned to play the bells and did it very, very happily for many years till I moved here. I haven't been able to find a new bell choir. But it was just, it was something that I always wanted to do, and I felt really positive about making that commitment to that and then doing it. You can see at the bottom the Spools and Sutures. That's our newest organization at our medical school, and it's a group of women and men that get together and knit and crochet, and I was a big knitter and put it down for many years, and it was a student actually who said, Dr. Nuzzarello, you got to pick it up again. And it's really been a lot of fun, and some of it is just about relaxing and rekindling that passion. But it's also part service too. We're making squares. Everybody can make 5-inch squares. We're going to put them into a blanket and donate them. So students feel like they're doing their part, but also just learning and remembering how to relax and keep those things in their lives. Do something nice for someone. If you're having a bad day, I know this sounds really trite, but if you're having a bad day, the best thing that you can do to turn it around is pay someone a compliment. Buy someone lunch. I do this in the cafeteria at the university every now and then. Just buy lunch for the person behind me. And it will make you feel so much better. It just turns things around. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed very small things. I'll get into an elevator and someone will say, oh, that's a great bag, or what a great color on you, or something it can really turn your day around. So keep that in mind. It will help you even when you pay someone else a compliment. That's my bibliography. Do I have time? I was going to do just a 2-minute relaxation. Do I have time for that? 1 minute? Okay, I'll talk fast. Okay. What I wanted to do, I just wanted to run through something with you. It's a very quick but really important relaxation. For you to remember, this one's called a peaceful place, and it's a skill that you need to have. So let's start. Let's do this. I will keep it under 2 minutes, I promise. Okay. So I would like everyone to, as comfortable as you can get in your chair. Please be as comfortable as you can. Get in a comfortable position, and I want you to close your eyes. And for the next few moments, just focus on your breathing. With every slow breath, your body relaxes more. Breathe in slowly, hold for 3, and exhale slowly. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, and breathing out. You feel the tension leave your body as you relax with every breath. Let your breathing continue to slow as you become more relaxed. Now, I want you to picture in your mind a place where you can feel peaceful, a place you feel safe, a beautiful place. Perhaps a beach, perhaps a cool forest. Notice the sounds in this place. It may be quiet, or you may hear the wind in the trees. Notice the smell, a familiar, calming smell. Who is in this place with you? Perhaps you are alone. Look around you and notice the details of your surrounding. Take in all of the details and let all those details continue to bring you calm. This is a place with no worries, just calm. As you enjoy your peaceful place, memorize the sights, the sounds, and the smell. Know that this place is always available to you. You can always take a break and visit this place of calm. In the last few moments of relaxation, create a snapshot of this place that you will return to. This is where you will go the next time you need to refocus. Now slowly turn your attention back to the present. Notice your current surroundings as you slowly return to alertness, keeping with you the feeling of calm from your peaceful place. And remember that that place is always there. So when you need to, you just need a couple of minutes. That was not a half an hour. That was really just a couple of minutes. And hopefully you feel refreshed and feel calm. Thank you so much for your time. If there are any questions, I would be happy